It's been confirmed that the Redmi K40 Pro is going to be using the Samsung S5 KHM1, or the sensor that was in the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra and the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 Ultra. This sensor features a 3x3:1 or a 9:1 pixel binning in order to give us bigger pixel size and better dynamic range. Now, Lu Weibing has already confirmed that the Redmi K40 Pro is going to be the cheapest device coming with the Snapdragon 888 CPU, and we have some more leaks now. Now, people like myself prior to this were wondering how Xiaomi is going to end up giving us a good device if they are aiming to be the cheapest device with the newest high-end CPU. Are they going to be giving us an LCD display? Is it going to be a 90 Hz AMOLED? What is it going to be? We have some more leaks today that the K40 Pro is going to be using an AMOLED display, so no high refresh LCD display, but are we going to get something greater than 60 Hz for AMOLED? I still think that it's going to be sticking with a 60 Hz AMOLED display, possibly a 90 Hz AMOLED display on the Redmi K40 Pro to get that price point down. Now, it's already clear that in other places we're going to see them cutting corners. If we look at the Redmi K40 series, that's already been confirmed to be shipping with the Sony IMX686 or last year's Redmi K30 Pro's main camera. This is a totally fine and adequate sensor. It's 64 megapixels and it does the 4:1 pixel binning to get you roughly 12 or 14 megapixel still images. And I was happy with the camera on the Redmi K30 Pro, although it didn't feature that big of an improvement over the Redmi K20 Pro. That said, the HM1 sensor features more advanced technology. It's a better sensor from Samsung. That said, it's last year's best sensor from Samsung. So it seems like Xiaomi is using some recycled parts from last year to get the price point of those devices down. Now, the Redmi K40 Pro is also going to be featuring an ultra wide camera as well as a macro camera to give it the 3-camera setup, very similar to what we had on the K30 Pro, with the exception of no depth sensor, which doesn't really do a whole lot that the other cameras couldn't do in providing depth information. I want to interrupt this video real quick. If you guys haven't checked out my Discord server, it's a place where we talk about tech. I jump in time to do voice chats with people, and we're going to be having more and more Gcam developers not only on the Discord server, but on my podcast. We do know that the Redmi K40 is not going to be featuring OIS, but we haven't seen the HM1 implemented in any Samsung devices without OIS. So the promise of us having a Redmi K40 Pro with OIS, which for me would be a big thumbs up because OIS does make a big difference, guys, is still alive and hopeful. Although, to be frank, I don't think that we are going to be seeing a Redmi K40 Pro with any type of OIS whatsoever. I think that if anything, Xiaomi is going to end up using a recycled camera design, possibly with the better sensor, but for sure we're going to see a mediocre or just average ultra wide camera at best, since this device is trying to hit that specific price point. The next thing that we do know is that the device is going to have a flat display, and this year Xiaomi is ditching the pop-up camera, which I personally was never that big of a fan of. I always felt like the pop-up camera was an extra area that the device could break, as well as a poor utilization of space within the device because it had to have that mechanism that went up and down. That said, a lot of people really liked the pop-up camera. Now, this isn't to say that the Redmi K40 Pro is going to be a bad device, but since Xiaomi has already set its sights on being the absolute cheapest Snapdragon 888 device, for sure we're going to see them cutting corners in other places. Possibly UFS 3 instead of UFS 3.1 storage, possibly LPDDR4 instead of LPDDR5 RAM, again, to bring costs down, are things that are totally within the realm of possibility and things that I think Xiaomi might consider. Another area that has me extremely interested in regards to this device is going to be the charging tech within the battery. Now, the Xiaomi K30 Pro featured 33-watt wired charging, and with the new Snapdragon 888 CPU, as well as the Snapdragon 865 CPU, all of these CPUs support power splitting at the SoC level, making them compatible with Qualcomm Quick Charge 5 if the manufacturer decides to implement that. The Redmi K30 Pro, as well as the Xiaomi Mi 10, did not actually have Qualcomm Quick Charge 5.0 on the device. That requires to have a 2-cell battery in order to get those really fast speeds and higher wattage. I definitely see Xiaomi giving us no Quick Charge 5.0 on the Redmi K40 Pro, since it would be a very obvious place that they could cut costs for the device. Along with that, 3-watt charging on the K30 Pro already was able to charge the device in about an hour, so giving us that top of the edge, top line bleeding spec charging speed is completely unnecessary. Already, 2021 is really shaping up to be quite an interesting year in regards to camera phones and cameras that we see on phones. We see a regression from the high megapixel back down more towards 50 megapixels with 4:1 pixel binning. We see that a lot of manufacturers are not including chargers in the box. Does that mean that we're going to see a lot of companies moving away from charging? Does that mean we're going to see a lot of companies moving towards slimmer boxes and Quick Charge 5.0 compatibility across the board in order to give people the ability to buy a fast charger? What are you guys waiting to see this year, and what is the number one feature that you guys want in your device right now? 5 HK. It's been confirmed that the Redmi K40 Pro is going to be using the Samsung S5 KHM1, or the sensor that was in the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra and the Samsung Galaxy Note